Morning, Omawale.
Yes, sir.
Good morning to everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Taylor. How are you today?
Pretty good, thank you.
Which one you say you was you attached, Mr. Omawale?
What's your question again?
It was some you say you attached to the body of the email, but you had froze up. So
I attached. I put it in the as a word. I put it in the body of the email, and so the agenda should be there. But if you don't have it in the body of the email, I'm sure that Ms. Brandy will find a way to attach it in the chat or something.
Yes, give me a few moments and I'll attach it in the chat.
Okay, very good there. Michelle Stevens, good morning.
Good morning, Omawale. I just got finished with Bible study. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, we just got finished with Bible study on our end. But look, I want to thank you for coming in. We've been missing your presence. We understand that you've had a few challenges. But
that's correct, sir. That is correct.
Yeah. Well, I guess they call it the modest touch, or you got the you got the power of resilience, bounce. And so I'm glad that you got so much bounce in you.
What they say, take a licking and keep on ticking.
There you go. There you go. Yes, sir. Take a licking and keep on kicking. And so we want to welcome Brother Wilbur T back in.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, good morning. And to your mother, your wife, your children and grandchildren, we say we're glad that all of you all are faring so well as we get to our welcome and well-being touch. And so we're going to give everybody a chance to just kind of give your own well-being statement. And whatever you say will be inspiration to all of us. So, Ms. Brandon, for some reason, you look, the picture you use is so radiant and has so much energy in it. We're going to let you give the first well-being statement any way you want to do it.
Good morning, all. It's good to see everyone on the call. I'm excited to hear what we will be discussing today.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you are with your son. Y'all in the same proximity. I wish you could put him on camera.
Well, he just left out of here, Mr. Omawale.
Oh, okay, yeah. I hadn't seen him since he was 18, and so now, you know, I imagine the fully over a decade has passed since the last time I've seen him. But I'm glad that he's been kept. And I'm glad all of us, part of my well-being statement is that we clothed in our right mind, and that's a big emphasis. One of the things is normally people say they clothed in their right mind, and they're glad that they were able to get up this morning. But even, you know, sometime after you get up, you can't get out. So I'm saying that you can get up and you can get out. We want to add that in also. But all my group's fine. As part of my statement, the little girl is about 36 weeks. She's in the hospital and they monitoring when they're going to do the C-section. But all of the factors for viability of the twins are in place. The only factor that's not favorable is that we got crazy, insane anxiety here in Houston, Texas, and we try to monitor that. But otherwise, that's Dr. Randall. So Dr. Randall, just coming in, we're going to ask you to give you whatever your welcome or gratitude or your statement is to get us started.
Well, thank you. Good morning. I really appreciate all the people on this entire planet that are trying to make this a better world. Maybe I'll start with that.
Well, thank you, sir. And we thank you for your contributions to make this a better world. And Nancy, Nancy be with us today?
She is out planting trees in a park this morning.
Okay. All right there. Well, hey, that's good because that lets us know where first love is. And that's where it needs to be. So thank you so much. Reverend David Johnson, how you doing this morning, ma'am?
I'm good, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm only going to be able to be here for a bit at home. I may be able to get back with you while I'm on the road. I'm getting ready to go to a wedding shower.
Okay.
So, yeah, one of my sons is getting married, so he wants us there.
Wonderful.
And I have the food, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say, biblically, you know what I'm talking about is take some wine with you, and then if you run out of wine, like Jesus did at Cana, you go ahead and stretch that wine, brother.
My brother, I don't know if I want. I mean, that's a good idea, but I don't know if I really want to be in that realm, my brother. I don't want to do that.
Okay, all right then. So, Mr. Gary, we're gonna move to you next to give your well-being statement.
I am so happy to be here. Just good to see all of you. Great to see. I saw Nancy last night. Nancy is the busiest 80-year-old that I've ever met. We both were at a First Unitarian Church down here downtown at a climate event, combo climate event, I guess a triple climate event. We were speaking about Black perspectives on plant-based eating and how that relates to climate and social justice. And Nancy was right there in the middle of all of it. We had a great time, and so thankful for her. And she told me she was going to be out planting trees today. So she's just, I guess, an inspiration for me. And all of you guys are too. And I'm happy, Omawale, your family's good. My family's good. The girls were able to get one NAACP award for their From Scratch movie last night. And this was, this is they have awards that they don't televise because there's too many. And so they got theirs last night. There was a ceremony and a thing last night that wasn't televised. The big one is tonight. They'll announce it, but so anyway, they're happy. We're just good and thankful. And I know that's long, sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
By the way, I wanted to ask Bob, is the tree planting event that Halls Bio 600 tree transformation event, or is it something else?
It's probably the one she's at. She's been trying to get trees planted all over Houston and cool neighborhoods down and reduce air conditioning and obviously fight climate change while she's doing it. And I don't know which one she's at. I could probably track it down real fast, but she's probably at the Halls Bayou. They don't usually do more than one any weekend.
I got you. Okay. Thank you so much. And I hope that grace that we all ask for will go out to Nancy and all the people who are planting trees, and everybody who's involved in climate justice, climate change movements. Bob, we'll probably give you a option at the end of the meeting. My classmates in California have been on the phone about the weather events in California. And so we'll probably give you a chance to come in at the end of the beat. Brother Wilbur Taylor, how you doing this morning?
Oh, just wonderful this morning. Just thinking about the comments that were just made, mentioned about Nancy planting trees today, which would be sort of pretty much like the heading of my wellness talk this morning because I'm feeling very well. And right now it is a transition for all of us from this winter into spring. And spring means a lot to quite a few, well, to all of us. For me, it means that my 4 grandkids in the universities will be coming home for spring break, one today and the other 3 next week. And a lot of wonderful things are going to be happening in that regard for about a couple of weeks. And my mother's doing great, the family as well. Just looking forward to all these positive things that are going on. And I've got an announcement at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Stevens, do you have an opening statement? Evidently, she's on now. Ms. Stevens, do you have an opening statement?
Wally, I thank God for being here. October 24th, I had surgery to remove a tumor from my pituitary gland.
Hmm.
Wow.
And so I'm healing. And I'm also on the battlefield for retired teachers. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much.
And thank you to my sister cousin for reminding me about the meeting.
Yes, and so we're very hopeful that your healing, your recovery, your restoration will continue. So we have you lifted up to the highest. David Taylor, that just let me bridge my comments in the very beginning by saying that we want to thank you for that masterful job that you did moderating for us with the Noble Executive a couple of weeks ago.
You're muted.
Thank you, Brother Omawale. I appreciate the comments. I was glad to participate. It was a very enlightening event for us. I think we learned a lot from what the guests had to share with us. I'm doing well this morning. Family's well. I'm listening to the comments that I've heard just briefly this morning. And I want to start by thanking Sister Cheryl, who's helping me with, some health-related issues associated with hypertension. And I'll be talking to her later about how much of the information she shared with me has given me real progress. And I would encourage anybody who's having similar issues to make sure they contact her because she's got a wealth of information to share. I listened to comments about, the climate. And if you look at the news and you see around the world, additional earthquakes and flooding conditions, and we got to be alarmed that we've got to take some action because this is no fluke. This is no accident. This is something that needs immediate attention. I also heard something that we need to think about in the future, that water systems, including the city of Houston water systems, have really deteriorating infrastructure. We can't sleep on that because we'll be Flint, Michigan if we're not careful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. Well, I think that everybody except Devin has been around. So Devin, we want to hear from you.
You're on mute.
Okay, I just want to say I'm happy to be here on time this morning. I've been kind of running raggedy, but I just want to mention that I never take for granted being in the presence of such knowledge and greatness, and I appreciate it and I take it to heart. I thank all of you.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you're here, Devin. I did put on the bottom of the agenda that, you're one of the key movers in the Fifth Ward Enrichment Summer Alumni Gathering. And I'm going to try to see if I can persuade everybody here to be a supporter and a contributor to that event. So we'll have that, if we have enough time, we'll have that at the top of the, at the bottom of the agenda. If everybody take a minute to look at that, I don't know if it's, I'm not in the chat, but Ms. Brandley said she'll put it in the chat. I have a little motivational quote, in the front, it comes from a book about the second half of life. And it says, when we live without meaning, we suffer the greatest illness of all. And then there was a quote that says that we drag expensive ghosts through memories, unmade bed. And I think that this whole question about meaning in the second half of life is important of us, because if we get the idea that we don't matter or what we do does not matter, it definitely zaps the quest for living. So this group, I'm hoping it can give all of us more of a zest and a quest for meaningful living. And as Muhammad Ali says, is that we don't count the days, is that we try to make the days count. And I hope that all of us are trying to do that. We want to say God bless the whole world, all the mothers, all of the families, all of the refugees, all of those people who are fleeing persecution, whether they be in deserts, on oceans and mountain passes, conflict regions. We want to say God bless them. Bless all of those people who are affected by natural disasters. I was at the UNHCR site for human rights and refugees, and they have a lot of beautiful things there, but we'll be sharing that going forward. I had a challenge for the group, which was based upon a real experience that I had. I ran into a very important citizen, a leading citizen who had put in a lot of work, graduate of law school from one of the law schools here in the city, but I ran into him outside a merchandising outside of a store. And I guess to some degree, he maybe reminded me of myself, about 2 years older than me, but we had a 4 or 5 minute conversation. But what I noticed is that I noticed his upkeep. He had on a sweatshirt that I imagine but it was full of food particles, more or less saturated with stains and residue of maybe meals that he had. I don't know his family. So the question to this group is, from your perspective, what would you recommend?
Mental health, some type of mental health intervention. It's been documented that folk who are in the midst of some type of mental health issue often dress opposite of what the season is. You may see them walking around, like you said, in sweatshirt with a lot of food stains on it, that kind of thing, dirty clothes. Especially if you know that this person has a, history of being otherwise in public. So he may be in the middle of some mental health crisis, man.
While we having this problem with Johnson, as to what your recommendation would be?
Well, I mean, you mean as far as this group is concerned with this?
Well, just on a
hypothetical situation.
Yeah, just on a personal, level, what our charge or responsibility when we find somebody who's approaching 77, 78 years old and that kind of state. what's next? What is it that we should do if we should do anything?
Well, I guess, I suppose the first, probably the most logical thing to do is try to find out if he has any relatives.
Okay.
Because the system is going to require you to have some kind of blood relationship to the individual before you'll be able to get them any help, or if they're already in the system, get any information about them. I don't know how difficult it would be to get in touch or find out about family members, though.
Okay.
I would try to find out from Area on Aging what their suggestions are.
Okay.
I mean, they must pay a lot of attention to that question on a pretty regular basis.
What was the name of that organization, Dr. Bob?
It's the Area on Aging. I've forgotten the full name of it, but we had a speaker from that group, didn't we, a while back?
Yeah, that's Keith Taylor. And matter of fact, we don't even know if he's a veteran or not, but the speaker was from Veteran Affairs Division of the Area Agency on the Aging. So yes, that would be I did make a note here, and I'm going to find out his last name, the attorney, and that is probably where I would start in terms of trying to make a referral. I'm thinking that if it was me, if I had a relative, if I was not living alone, and say if I was living with somebody and I had somebody who had some clarity and they could look at me and they said, look, Omowale, you need to freshen up, you need to change your shirt before you go out in the public, because like I said in the little description, is that his communication pattern was good, but it just looked like that nobody was paying attention to his dress habits. It appeared that he had a shave recently, but in terms of the clothes, sometimes you see people like that in nursing homes where nobody has really taken an effort to try to clean them up. But anyway, I'm gonna take that suggestion from Johnson and Randall, and I will follow up on it. But this is just to make sure that we stay on point in terms of what we're dealing with in the second half of life. I wish to say we might even be in the fourth quarter, and I might even be asking for overtime for the game to go into overtime. So we are constantly dealing with trying to take care of ourselves and trying to take care of the other people we love and take care of the community. So Brother David Taylor, are there certain high points from the presentation that you moderated by George Ryan, and in terms of perhaps any follow-up, or what is it that you would point out to us from that presentation?
There were two significant takeaways that I have that I'll share, Omowale. One is that we were clearly advised that there needs to be an appreciation for the importance of law enforcement, and I think we all appreciate that. And he said there needs to be some type of relationship or partnership between concerned citizens like ourselves and those agencies. And we had a couple of folk, I think, who were already involved in some groups that were working to try to forge some kind of proactive approach to how we deal with the issue of police assaults and violence that is unlawful, and the fact that there are some serious-minded, decent, professional law enforcement officials. And there needs to be a relationship between those groups and groups like ours, because it's an issue that's, as he advised, won't go away. He fully believes that all of us share the belief that you have to have some form of law enforcement that is professional, and that you need to make sure that the issues associated with why some law enforcement officials misbehave is something that needs to be looked at. Those were my important takeaways. He also indicated, Omowale, that he was also very much interested in coming back to talk to us if we deem it necessary.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any takeaways that need to be mentioned?
I was taken by a comment that a lot of law enforcement people are dealing with pretty nasty stuff on a more or less daily basis, and that the mental health issues for law enforcement people are not really sufficiently appreciated, that they're not being supported in a way that helps them deal with the kind of probably anger and sadness and sorrow and everything else they have to deal with. But, you know, it's a pretty tough job what they're doing. There are a lot of tough jobs out there, but that's a tough one also. And you know, so when people flip and do nasty things, sometimes it's partly just mental health problems. That's what I think they were saying. So and it needs to be stopped before that happens.
Right. And let me just share with you that from my engagement with police officers, which is considerable in that we have a program to build trust and reestablish legitimacy between police and the community. I'll never forget, I guess it was a young girl about 16. She said in one of the sessions that after she heard, listened or engaged in a dialogue with policemen, she decided she was going to be a psychologist. And when we asked her why, or what prompted her to say that, she said that because the police, in her words, were in bad shape. And she talked about the police bearing the fact that they had multiple divorces. They were dealt with substance abuse issues. And so she wanted to be a psychologist so that she can go out and help police. So the police are under increased stress, pressure. I think that y'all heard me say that I wanted to take out the part of the narrative, the narration that George did about him being shot 3 times, been in 3 shootings, and I do know a little bit about that. But my point is that the police, when you get to know them up close, they are under some incredible pressures. We had on the line Dr. McGee, who is part of the George Floyd Foundation, and there's going to be a resuscitation with Cory Booker and Tim Scott. They're going to try to reinvigorate the George Floyd Policing Act for this Congress. I'd like for the group to consider if we need to encourage individuals and organizations to send letters in support of Congress passing the George Floyd Policing Act. I'm thinking about the Emmett Till Act and how long it took that, which was what, 4 or 5 decades to pass the Congress. So at any rate, give some consideration as to whether or not that would be a worthy endeavor by us to give support to the passage of the George Floyd Policing Act. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to make, I didn't know it, but a coalition of white supremacist group has declared this to be National Hate Day. I mentioned that my neighborhood had been leafleted with pamphlets that basically indicated that they were not going to be replaced by Jews. The Star of David was on the pamphlets. The first pamphlet basically indicated a biblical scripture from the New Testament that Jews were part of the synagogue of Satan, that they own all of the major media. And if I understood everything correctly, they had 39 rocks in the flyers that came in a sealed bag. And that was for Revelations 3:9. And so they were basically arguing for a elimination of Jews from the country. And then they followed up with a second leaflet, which I'm going to try to make available to all of you all. The second leaflet that indicated that the Jews had financed the slave trade. And they had the names of the Jewish financiers and some of the captains of the ships that were involved in the slave trade, which appeared to be an effort to increase enmity between Blacks and Jews. So this appears to be going on nationwide. I understand in Miami-Dade County, from listening to Fox News this morning, a counter mobilization has started against the movement, this so-called National Hate Day established by the white supremacists. Any comment, any observation? Oh my God, leave our country, go back to Israel. You know where you bombed Palestinian kids? Okay, I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to weigh in on the a little leaven seeded the whole loaf. My point is that they are trying to ignite a response based upon the hate propaganda that's all about. I am going to reach out to a few people. I've already talked to David Kahn. David is Jewish. He's an attorney, and he's very big into civil rights and social justice. He and his wife left for Tanzania. They're going to be on the Serengeti for a few days. And so after they come from the Serengeti, and you know, they go out and watch the, as I've said to David cheerfully, that yeah, I imagine that you're going to want some new content after you watch all of the crocodiles eat all of the wildebeest on the Serengeti. And he took that in the way that I intended to be, but he did say that he would be glad, Brother Taylor, to get with us and see what should go forward, what it is, if we do need to have any kind of response to the propaganda that's going out about the Jewish presence in this country. And I think it fits very well into the, if we move from Buffalo to Mother Emanuel Church, all the way to Pittsburgh, to the Jewish synagogues, to the Latino attacks, gun violence attacks, to the Asian gun violence attacks, we can all see that the country is at a very bad very bad juncture with all of this racial hatred. And I know all of you are doing your part in terms of trying to mitigate the racial hatred. Does anybody have any comment?
Omawale, I just have one question for you. Do you have any thoughts, or have you been able to determine why your particular community was targeted with that information?
I have not, and what I did is that as I walked down the street, I found out that they put it in people's driveway. They didn't put it in the mailboxes, and so a lot of people still had the little packages with the rocks in, which were basically the baggage that we use in our house for freezing things with the rocks and the leaflet. They were still in their driveway, but I don't know what metrics that they considered in their head as to why this community ought to be one of the targets. Bill Crozier from Houston Peace and Justice told me that the Chronicle did an article on the fact that there were multiple neighborhoods targeted.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
go
please.
ahead.
I was just going to say it's really important that you're sharing this information and that we all share that kind of information, simply because we can't put our heads in the sand about what's going on. But at the same time, it needs to motivate us and activate us, kind of going back to your original comments, Omawale, that when we get up with a mission, and we're at different stages, in our lives. But we have a lot to share. We have a lot of influence to bear on everything that happens. So we need to recognize it. We need to know the threat. We need to remember Tim Snyder's, sage advice about, the 20 lessons, sorry. But, in the long term, I'm very optimistic. In the short term, we got a lot of work to do. And we are at a very, I won't say dangerous, maybe that's too harsh of a word, maybe it's not, but we're at an inflection point. So these kind of discussions are important, but what's even more important is all the things that we're individually trying to do and that we collectively are doing. That's the key.
Man,
I would just say that racist crap is it's been all over the place for a long, long time. And I don't know how many of you know that the word redskin was first applied to the Irish.
No, I didn't.
It's because the British offered bounties on the Irish, and so when you scalp them and bring back a scalp, you have a redskin. And then when they started doing it on indigenous people in North America, they became redskins. That I had a book when I was teaching racism at University of Houston a while back. I had a book that I bought from Harcourt Brace, published in the 1920s, that explained why the Irish were so lazy. And it's because they're inbred with Italians.
Okay.
There's a song called No Irish Need Apply that was a popular song in the United States. And so I'm just saying that, the Dan Patricks of this world don't really know much about their heritage. And racism is one of these things that, and Trevor Noah talks about in South Africa, how the Chinese were considered colored and Japanese were considered white by the apartheid government, because the Japanese came in with money and the Chinese came in as minors. I'm just telling you that, that racism is one of these crazy things that goes on and really hurts people, but it creates this lovely splits in society so that nobody really looks at what the real problems are. So anyway.
Yeah.
I say amen to that. It all, follow the money and you'll find out where, a lot of this comes from. And the people who are really benefiting from it are in big donor circles for both parties. And they cannot exist. I mean, our economic system is broken. You know, it's become almost like a cancer on society and a cancer on the earth. For all the good that it's done, it needs to be reimagined, reformed. I don't know what kind of word we can use for it, but stratification and racism and division, it has to have that to exist. Because you have to have cheap labor, you have to have people who are hungry enough. You don't want them to have health care because then they get lazier. It's insane, but it's where we are. And I think we have to keep clarity about where we're trying to go.
Well, that's the intent of the conversation here, is that we wanted to get clarity. We don't want to get distracted from the main thing. Some of these demonization points, they are very vicious. I looked at the leaflet and I looked at the people that they had on the leaflet. Everybody from Steven Spielberg to a host of other officials who were allegedly attempting to further take over the world and control our lives and introduce pedophilia and everything else. The leaflet, it actually made me sick, physically sick for a moment. But at any rate, I think that the more that we can speak to our publics, speak to our friends, relatives, and family in the area of civil society, if we can make civil society civil, it's going to make democracy stronger. So I'm hoping that we will continue having these discussions. I'm glad that you mentioned Tim Snyder. I'm thinking about, I want to mention Madeleine Albright's name, and I want to mention a bunch of other people who have taken extraordinary steps to make sure that we don't go backwards. So thank you for your comments. Those of you, I want to thank Nicole Hanna for what she did with the 1619 project. I know that Abbott is joining an alliance with the DeSantis, and they're trying to stifle cultural diversity and democracy in this state. I'm hoping that we are in touch with people who are monitoring bills in the Texas state legislature, because we don't want too much to slip by us. Now, the next concern is that what kind of presence, or do we want to have any presence in the November mayor and city council elections? I'm not asking, do we want to endorse anybody, but I want us to think about, do we want to have any presence at all?
Raleigh, I would certainly agree that our platform can be used to certainly educate voters on who those individuals are, what their backgrounds are, what they support, those sort of things that would be important to a group like ours. And I certainly don't think there is any reason why we wouldn't, if possible, want to have them take an opportunity to speak with us, to share with us who they are and what they bring to the table regarding the particular elections they're involved in.
Yeah, I don't know if those of us here, we know what the field looks like in terms of the mayor's election. We at least need to know what, well, I tell you what, I was wondering if we could get somebody to take an assignment to at least tell us what the field looks like in terms of the mayor's election and what the salient issues are, or how the salient issues are developing for 2023. So is there anybody who would kind of stand on point to take that responsibility of letting us know what the field looks like and what the key issues, how the key issues appear to be developing at this point?
Alderman Wally, I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, thank you. And also think about outfits that we might can partnership with in terms of the way that our community is constituted, who it is that we might in partnership who might be interested in this entire deal, because it's going to have to be done from I guess a synergistic standpoint of organizations that want to move this agenda. By the way, and let me just mention, I would be remiss. One of the lawyers that represented myself and a host of other activist elements in the 1960s and early 70s, Bobby Caldwell, deceased. That was a ceremony, homegoing ceremony for him at Shape Community Center. I think that was last Saturday. I will try to bring a picture of Bobby for our next gathering. I did want to mention that. But David, thank you for, I'm gonna put your name by this special project on the November mayors and council elections.
Okay.
Thank you.
By the way, Alderman Wally, I was listening to National Public Radio this morning. The city of Chicago is going through something very similar. Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago is actually in a real struggle for return to the position of mayor of Chicago. It sounds very similar to what you'll see happening here in Houston. So I would suggest that if any of you are interested, that would be a good race to also look at, because it's going to be very interesting to see what Chicago decides to do.
Yes, we'll certainly look at that. I don't know if I can task you with try to see if we can get this underlying meaning Mattress Mac and the cast of characters that are working with him to try to overturn the Harris County election. The one that we just had where the county judge was restored. It might be a good idea if we could do some intel on what is happening in terms of the array of forces that have gotten together and put money together to overturn this election. Does anybody have any, was anybody be interested in looking at Mattress Mac and his motivations and the cast of characters that have filed a lawsuit to overturn the Harris County election?
Wally, I'll tie that into what I'm working on. There's a group that they are part of that is sort of the monetary backing and coordination of those efforts. I'll take a look at them and report back.
Okay, good. And that's that was my expectation and intention, that you could weld those together. Mr. Brandler, if you can, I want to close with a clip that I sent you, not right at this minute, on Marjorie Greene and Matt Gaetz and that group with the Freedom Caucus. I want to close with that, but anyway, if you can go ahead and cue that up and get ready for that. I wanted to say from the 1960s, that was a, I don't know if how many of you remember Dr. Helen Caldicott, but she wrote a book called Missile Envy. And I was thinking about the perilous advance in the nuclear clock with Biden being in Ukraine with the Russians withdrawing from the SALT Treaty and tensions beginning to increase in other parts of the world, and the advance of all of these nuclear warheads that we have in the United States that are being, what you said, refurbished, that are being rejuvenated in case that there is a nuclear war, kind of unsettling. But I want to be reminded of the fact that we have this missile envy by this patriarchy, Putin and all of our leaders, about who has the most, the biggest, the most powerful. I'm reminded of her book, in trying to understand Ukraine from the standpoint that we are close to some kind of a nuclear event, if not in the world, but definitely in Europe. And does anybody have a quick thought on what happened with Biden going to Ukraine?
Omawale, one thing I'll share with you that's interesting is what the Republican Party is doing with that. And they're taking issue with him for making that trip and seemingly having that trip to appear to the electorate as more important than what is happening in Palestine, Ohio. In other words, they're faulting him for not going there and still not having gone there, and actually opting to go to the Ukraine rather than go to, or at least pay some attention to, whether he needs to be in Palestine, where they had that toxic fire and event in that area. I will say also that the Doomsday event is something that a lot of folk are talking about. There's certainly some concern that China has indicated that they're going to help Russia in some regards regarding their ability to continue to prosecute that war against the Ukrainian people. I think it is getting dicey. I think the news people are trying to get President Biden to say whether or not, if China does that, that crosses some kind of line. And I think we all know that that kind of skirmish, there's no winner. You're probably talking about the total destruction of this planet.
And David Taylor, I wanted to say that what I captured from what you just said was the final phrase that you mentioned. There is no winner. And so I'm thinking that maybe not as a catchword, but as a watchword, that we can begin to talk to people about the importance of diplomacy, the importance of negotiations and the non-use of force, and trying to use our international bodies to try to see if we can settle these disputes that are going to be so costly. I guess you kind of teased the agenda, because I wanted to. You brought up so many things. I think your comments were pregnant with so many things when you mentioned the Chinese, because you mentioned in the question of Taiwan and the Philippines and all of those chain of islands down there that are likely to be the first levels of attack if this thing continues to escalate. So yeah, but thank you for paying attention to what is happening internationally. And I think that if you continue to spur us to follow these events, I think that our brains are going to continue to be a lot healthier in terms of these advancing cognitive illnesses, which are plaguing most of the country. So I want to thank you for that vanguard role that you playing in terms of the discussion that we're having here in this group. Does anybody have a comment or observation based upon what David Teller just said? Let me mention that the Fifth Ward Enrichment Program, Devin, which was at one time one of the preeminent male youth development organizations in the country for about 25 years, is having a alumni gathering this summer. I'm hoping that we can get some contributions from this group. I know Shara is going to work with me on that to make that a success. And let me say, Devin, do you have a comment on that Fifth Ward Enrichment Program alumni gathering? Because I think that you were, is it correct? You were one of the first, if not the first,
Yeah, I was
youth in Fifth Ward Enrichment Program.
Yes, I was among the first group that Mr. McMillan started the program with. I was one of the older kids, so I got the chance to experience for just that summer. And I went off to high school. It was primarily for middle school kids. Excuse me. But I got that whole summer experience, you know, and other things. The streets led me astray, but I think it's a good program. So now we're just trying to get together and bring it back, see if we can get back out there and help the kids in the community. And we also are bringing in young girls, because back then it was only for male boys, adolescents. So now we're also trying to bring in the young girls that are super important in the Black community, you know, because they're raising the single parent. They're single parents and raising the boys. So we want to try to help the girls to become more productive, you know, in the community. So after the meeting, I'm going out and try to we have flyers that we're distributing, you know, for the alumni reunion. Were you able to get those that I took to your office yesterday, Mr.?
No, but I thank you for dropping them by, and I will do that on early next week. So thank you so much.
I'll make sure. But
okay,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you, Devin. On that score, I wanted to share with people that one of the things that happened at the last gathering, I think Kevin, now I guess that's his last name is Kevin Robinson or Kevin Washington. He was on the call, and what he said is that, which I think is important for us to understand this process of youth development, where youth go on to be productive citizens. He said that he started at Pleasance, which is right down from Hester House across the street in Fifth Ward. And then he went from Pleasance to E.O. Smith, and he went from E.O. Smith to Wheatley. His daddy moved, changed the neighborhood. He went to Jones. He graduated from Jones, and he went to the military, and he got involved in aviation, and he became a commercial pilot. And I know recently he's been flying helicopters and things of that nature, but he's also flown the big jets in a commercial fashion. So I think that it's going to be important for us to take people like Kevin Washington, who came through the Fifth Ward Enrichment Program and arrived at such a high station in terms of his him becoming a commercial pilot. So we definitely want to showcase Kevin, and I think that he is willing to be showcased, which speaks to the fact that the program, as Kevin says, it has some deep, profound, fond moments for him in terms of his development and evolution. And so we might bring Kevin to the floor at some point going forward to talk to us about that. The final thing I have here is that we want to know what you are eating, reading, and watching. I think it's going to be helpful if you share with us what it is that you're eating, reading, and watch it. You know, I shared with you all that I've been watching a special on Prime. I think I'm in the like session 8 or 9 now about the voyage of the continent. It's the most incredible, gripping event I've seen. I guess that in terms of Darwinian evolution and survival of the fittest and natural selection, but in terms of the way that the planets have advanced and the understanding of the geology, when the Turkey Syrian earthquake took place, it was all intelligible to me based upon watching Voyage of the Planets. So I think it's on other than Prime. Does anybody else have any type of anything that you're watching, eating, or reading as we begin to cross-fertilize each other more? Does anybody have anything else that they would share that would be helpful to us in terms of what it is that we're watching, reading, or eating?
Wally, I don't have anything that I've been watching, but I did hear this morning on PBS that there will be a documentary tonight at 7 p.m. on 88.7 regarding what's going on. In other words, they'll take a look at the significance of what Marvin Gaye was trying to tell America when he put that album together. And based on what I've heard from the promotion, it sounds like it could be very revealing and interesting. 7 o'clock tonight on 88.7.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Brother Wilbur, tell him.
Yes, the announcement that I've been wanting to make is the fact that the African American Studies Department at the University of Houston and the Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies group joining together to sponsor Mrs. Janice Kearney, who was a diarist, who's authored a book called Only on Sundays. It's about the lifelong journey of Mahalia Jackson. She's going to be lecturing at the University of Houston this coming Monday at 12 noon in Agnes Arnold Hall, room 210. There's also going to be a major meeting, I forget the Jewish church where Sheila Jackson Lee, a bunch of politicians, a bunch of academicians are going to be supporting her in the promotion of her talk and her book that she's publishing. And I think that a lot of us are of the generation where we, for me, we're Mahalia Jackson's music, and you know how much it's meant to us in our lives, and having listened to her throughout those years. So that's just one of the very good things that are taking place starting on Monday. And if anybody would like to have any information about the other activities going on at the Jewish church, just email me and I'll be glad to send the information out.
Yeah, please send that out, T. Thank you so much. I also wanted to mention is that Kathleen Bell and Jesse Norman were featured on PBS last night singing spirituals together. I think this is this annual PBS campaign. I'm sure it's going to come up again, but I think you'll find that very interesting. The other thing I wanted to mention is that PBS is also running a Origin of Hip Hop special with Chuck D. I found it to be better than what I thought it was capable of being. I've been watching it, and they actually are doing a very good job. It's very well researched in terms of the origins of hip hop. How many people watched the Super Bowl in terms of Rihanna's performance? Okay, Bob didn't watch it. Cheryl watched it. Okay, David Taylor and T watched it, the hands being up. At some point, there's a lot of controversy in the country in terms of the FCC has received just a whole huge volume of complaints about it. But I don't know, it just might be an item that we can discuss going forward if there's interest in it. But please share by email or chat if there's anything that you're eating, reading, or watching that would be of value to the group here. Please do that. And I will try to be a little bit more diligent in terms of getting anything to you related to our agenda earlier next time. But we're going to start checking out. We are actually within striking distance. It was 12:11, and we're going to try to be out of here by 12:15. But let's start going around with, I think I'm going to start with, I'm going to go from right to left, because we're going to start with Brother T and let him check out first.
Yes, let me check out with the fact that this comment that I've been making about the fruits from the tree of us from the 60s and 70s is very meaningful, and kudos to Tempe and Attica for receiving their award.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. David Taylor, we're going to let you check out, sir.
I want to certainly wish everyone a very productive and safe and healthy week. And I would just also say that I'll look forward to the next time we're together, providing some information on the task, Omowale, that you've asked me to undertake regarding politics and City of Houston elections.
Thank you so much. Dr. Randall.
Well, I caught a film on Netflix. I've forgotten the name, but it's about a warrior group of women in Dahomey in, I don't know what, 3 centuries ago.
The woman queen.
Basically, there's a woman's army. Much of the West African coast is matrilineal in the way they handle their kinship. And it's quite an impressive little thing. Shara nodded her head. I don't know if you've seen the film, but I can't remember.
I've heard about it.
It's called The Woman King.
It'll shake up your ideas about how the world should work.
I think it's called The Woman Queen. The Woman King.
Yes, the Woman Queen. Yes.
Woman King. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Yes. And but cool. It's a cool movie. I mean, if you spent any time like I did in West Africa, especially on the coast, you appreciate it. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to encourage everybody to watch it. I had intended to go to the matinee and watch it with Jimmy, but we didn't. And so we actually rented it at home. I think it cost about $6 for 30 days. And it was worth watching. And commercially, it is a success commercially. And I think that that's worthy of being mentioned. So thanks a lot. We might have a little discussion about The Woman King if we can structure it properly. Mr. Ross, Devin Ross.
I would like to reiterate a quote that I received from a great man once, and it was forward together, backwards never.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And by the way, Miss Brandley did put in the chat that it's free on Prime. If you got Prime, it's free. Okay. The Woman King. Miss Aguirre?
Hey, just love you guys. Happy to be with you. Enjoy this weekend.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens?
Omowale and crew, as I said, I'm on the battlefield for retired teachers. We have a rally at the Capitol in April. And we're trying to get a cost of living raise. Haven't had one in 16 years.
Yeah. Ms. Stevens, let us know how we can support that rally for the retired teachers in April. So let us know how we can support that. Yeah, with the cost of inflation, if you hadn't had a raise in 16 years, your back is against the wall.
Alderman
Yeah,
Wally, could
I've
I?
never had one. I've never had a cost of living raise. Never.
Alderman Wally, I'd like to interject right now real quick that the national average for pay for Houston teachers is $8,000 less than what you see around the country.
That's right.
That should be part of this concern as well.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know. So, Ms. Cheryl, just let us know whatever we can do in terms of what we're capable of doing, given our resources and things of that nature. And I'm happy. I think that we'll be happy to consider that.
Yeah, I was told by my district president that if you're a teacher, you don't have to be a part of our organization, the Texas Retired Teachers Association. You can get on the bus with us and go to Austin. April, I think it's April 14th. I'm not sure, but I'll get that information to you.
Okay, yeah,
It's free.
please.
It's free.
Please, April 14th. That's good. That resonates, that rocks. My mother was a teacher. My wife's mother was a teacher, and I'm sure that all of us here, we have educators in our family. We used to think that the religion was the last defense against the kind of onslaught that we facing, but now it appears that everybody agrees that education and educators are the last defense.
Right.
If they get beyond you all, the educators, is that we well, I don't want to end us on a negative chord, so I'm gonna just leave that alone. But educators are just absolutely critical. Thank you so much. Devin, did you check out?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
forward ever, backwards never.
Yes,
I
sir.
do remember that.
Okay.
Okay, and
I would also like to add before we go, I think everyone should check out that From Scratch. That's a very good movie, or a movie of endurance, and it shows some perfect union in that.
okay,
It's a good
definitely
movie.
definitely endurance and stamina.
Yeah.
Yes, no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. And I think that Timmy indicated that she's going to join this group, and so she'll be with us occasionally from time to time, and so that's wonderful. And we have some other young people indicated they wanted to join. Yes, sir, Mr. Taylor. Pete, you got your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, no.
all right. Okay, well, look, folks, we out, and God's willing, we'll have a good program to deal with 2 weeks from now.
Thank you.
Give
you,
Nancy our
Wally.
regards, and we'll be glad to see her when she comes back.
Have a good day.